What? Why is my seat in the restroom? This has to be some kind of joke, right? At the inaugural party for the new company's CEO, I discovered this shocking situation. Kimberly, my boss who constantly mocks me for only having a middle school education, laughed with amusement at my reaction. A middle school graduate like you? Perfect for having your meal in the restroom. It's all the rage now, right? Restroom meals. They're good enough for you. Fuming at her words, I declared that I was going home. And not only me, but every other employee present also decided to leave, leaving Kimberly all alone in the empty venue. After that, Kimberly. My name is Keith Underhill, 40 years old. I'm an average office worker at Kendall & Company, a small company in Tokyo. If I may say so myself, I'm neither outstanding nor lacking. Just somewhere in between. Good morning. Good morning, Keith. Greeting the folks in the sales department, I settled at my desk and started prepping for the day's work. I checked my appointments and calls and scheduled my day. At 40, it wouldn't be unusual for me to have a managerial title, but here I am, a regular employee. My sales performance isn't bad, but I think my lack of educational background has something to do with not being promoted. I'm what you might call an unusual case, a middle school graduate in this day and age. Keith, are you really a middle school grad? That's kinda surprising. Why didn't you go to high school? Hey, come on. That's personal stuff. Can't you imagine he had his reasons? Yeah, I get that, but aren't you curious? Don't you want to ask when you're curious about something? Man, saying I'm curious like that. It sounds like a kid. Tom, one of my colleagues, cited Scott, the junior who was so openly curious. These two are quite a pair, just watching them interact is fun. Well, yeah, it's only natural to wonder. You don't see many people with just a middle school education. It's fine, I don't mind sharing. Want to hear why I didn't go to high school? I explained to Scott why I started working right after middle school. I've told this several times before, so now I can keep it pretty concise. I actually wanted to go to high school, but I have 5 younger siblings. There were 6 of us all together. Wow! That's a lot of siblings. Big family. I'm one of 3, the middle child, and I thought that was a lot, but 6. Yeah, it's a lot, even back then. But then, in my second year of middle school, my dad fell seriously ill. He fought hard. But by the summer of my 3rd year, he passed away. So my mom had to raise 6 kids on her own. And as you can imagine, that was tough. Yeah, no kidding. Your mom must have been amazing. I'm an only child, so I can't even picture it. My mother, knowing she had 6 mouths to feed, started working right after my father's funeral, saying there was no time to grieve. But with 6 kids, even just the grocery bills were overwhelming. Even as a kid, I understood how hard it was to manage on one income. That's why I started working. My mom felt guilty she couldn't send me to high school, and she cried over it, but as the eldest, I wanted to help my siblings. They're my family, and I wanted them to have a shot at a good education. So the money you earned helped your younger siblings stay in school? Exactly. All 5 graduated from high school and went on to follow their own paths, whether it was trade school, jobs, community college, or university. It made me happiest to see them each pursue what they wanted. Scott looked moved by my story. Keith, that's incredible. I had no idea. I really respect you for that. With eyes shining, Scott looked at me in admiration. I often hear about a look of respect, and I think this is exactly what they're talking about when I see Scott's eyes right now. Thank you, Scott. But I just did what I could for my family. Now, I'm just grateful to work hard here with everyone. Me too. I'm really glad to work with someone who's lived such a cool life like you. Thanks. Well, looks like our break's almost over. Let's work hard this afternoon. Right. Oh, excuse me, I'll head out a bit early. I've got something I need to finish up. As Scott hurriedly disappeared, muttering about running out of time, Tom let out a sigh. He's a good guy, but he tends to say whatever pops into his head as soon as he's curious about something. It's a little concerning. Tom, Scott's mentor, is older but joined the company at the same time as me, and we've known each other for a long time. Even though I only finished middle school, he never looked down on me and has always been a good-natured colleague and friend. I chuckled, patting Tom on the shoulder. Yes, but he means well. It'll take time, but he'll learn. Just gotta guide him a bit. You think so? Thanks, man. Well, let's get back to work. Let's do our best this afternoon. For sure. Gotta keep from nodding off. With that, we wrapped up our lunch break and prepared for the rest of the workday. My co-workers, juniors, and most of my supervisors are basically friendly and respectful. The key point here is basically, as there's one person who still sticks in my mind. That person is Kimberly, the female department head who constantly mocks me. Kimberly is a graduate of a prestigious university and carries herself like an elite, always looking for a chance to criticize my education. Keith, I noticed a typo in one of your reports. Can you read? Do you understand what you're writing? Or is this because of your education? These mistakes are a problem. I'm sorry, I'll correct it right away. I responded calmly, but I couldn't help sighing inwardly. Sure, it's my fault for making a mistake. No argument there. But a single typo? For one tiny error, Kimberly acts like she's won a prize, eagerly putting me down. And she seems to enjoy it. Do you, a middle school graduate, ever feel the difference in our levels when working with someone like me? Being open about my education level brings out all kinds of opinions from people. I understand that there are many ways of thinking in the world, and everyone has their own opinions. As for me, maybe it was different when I was younger, but at this age, I don't get hurt by it anymore. It's just baffling to see someone who can only view others based on academic credentials. All set. I'm sorry again for the mistake. I corrected the document, printed it out, and handed it to Kimberly. Really, don't waste my time with this. Unlike you, I have a busy schedule. With a dismissive "get your work done properly," she clicked her heels out of the room. I took a deep breath, letting go of the tension. Just then, Tom appeared and gave me a supportive pat on the shoulder. Nice job holding it together. If she's so busy, why bother with a single typo? Then Scott showed up, looking a bit pouty. He stared at the door Kimberly had just exited, not looking too pleased. Seriously. Kimberly's too much. She's always picking out people's mistakes just to criticize. I don't think anyone here actually likes her. Well, I know the typo's on me, and I figure she's a talented person to be in her position, but yeah, her attitude toward people could use some work. And it's not just me. Anyway, back to work. Let's do it. Oh, here, Keith, take this. It's chocolate. Oh, thanks. I'll eat it and get back on track. What? Hey, Scott, can I get some too? Tom, you don't have anything to be upset about, so no. Ah, come on. Don't be stingy. I laughed out loud at their playful exchange. Though Kimberly's attitude was always harsh, I was grateful for the kindness of others around me. Working here was fun and fulfilling, but then... A company-wide meeting? That's rare. I wonder what's up. Are these common around here? Almost never. This'll be like the second one since I joined. An urgent all-hands meeting was suddenly announced through a company-wide email. The employees, like myself, gathered with questions on their minds, and a low hum of conversation filled the room. As soon as Mr. Kendall, the CEO, entered and stood before everyone, the murmurs quieted instantly. Mr. Kendall began to speak with a calm smile. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. Today, I have an important announcement, which is why I called you all here. Attention spread through the employees, who focused their attention on him. With everyone's eyes on him, Mr. Kendall took a deep breath and continued. I've led this company for many years, but I decided to retire at the end of this quarter and welcome a new CEO. A murmur of surprise filled the room. His announcement came as a shock. He'd only recently turned 60, after all. Some worried there might be health issues behind his decision. My wife and I have long dreamed of traveling the world together, and I felt now might be the right time. Though our vice president, Mark, tried to convince me otherwise, I think it's time I focus on my family. I only hope my wife won't get tired of me around all the time. He added with a chuckle. A wave of relieved laughter rippled through the room. Mr. Kendall, known for his gentle nature as well as being a very devoted father and caring husband, had never raised his voice, not even once. It was hard to imagine his wife would ever feel that way about him. I couldn't help but picture his wife's serene smile in my mind. As for the new CEO, I won't reveal their name just yet. Mark and the others are organizing a farewell party for me in a month. And we'll introduce the new CEO then. There might be a few things I'll need your help with for the event, and I'd appreciate your support. Thank you all for everything. I'll be sure to express my gratitude properly at the party. When Mr. Kendall bowed his head, the room erupted in applause, with several employees visibly moved. This alone showed just how well regarded he was by everyone. After that, we were dismissed, and everyone returned to their desks. Who do you think it'll be? Hopefully not Kimberly, or we're all doomed. Don't say that, Scott. That's terrifying. If that happens, we'll probably see a mass exodus. Yeah, that'd be scary. The whole office buzzed with speculation about the new CEO all day. The next day, another company-wide email came through, this time from Kimberly. Everyone, please make sure preparations for the new CEO's welcome party is flawless. This is also Mr. Kendall's farewell, so no mistakes. Attached to the document that begins that way is a list detailing the responsibilities of each department. Our sales department, it seemed, was responsible for decorating the venue. I nodded to myself, taking it all in, when another email from Kimberly, not company-wide this time but just to me, popped up. Especially you, Keith. Even someone with only a middle school education should mind their manners. Kimberly's words carried a hint of mockery, but I calmly replied without letting it faze me. Understood. I sighed as yet another email arrived. Persistent, aren't you, Kimberly? I muttered, opening it. But it was not from her. Hey, Scott, I think there's a box of gold balloons over there. Can you grab it? On the day of the party, everyone was busy with preparations. Naturally, I was among them, decorating the venue. As assigned by Kimberly, each department handled their respective duties with energy and efficiency. Found it. Here you go. Thanks. This place is huge, but if we all work together, it'll look great. I'm excited to see how it turns out. Let's keep it up. Scott responded with a smile. Across the room, I could see Tom setting up decorations on the speech podium. Being in sales, I'd never done this kind of decorating before, but after some research online and on social media, I thought we'd pulled off a pretty good look. Are you doing it right? Not bad. So, the decoration leader is you, Keith? Flipping through the documents, she must have spotted my name listed as the decoration manager. She started grinning and teasing me. Not bad for someone like a middle school graduate. Maybe you should shift to a job where you can use this talent. How about creating an events department just for you? You'd be its only member, though. She laughed to herself, though I had no idea what she found so funny. Ignoring her, I continued working. I knew from experience that talking to Kimberly would only lead to more trouble. Oh, by the way, here is the seating chart for you. Double check it later, will you? And don't mess it up. Just then, Kimberly hands me the seating chart. I started to take a look right there, but she gave me a nasty look. You don't need to open it here. Hurry up and finish the decorations. With her scolding, I quickly tucked the seating chart in my chest pocket and returned to my station to continue decorating. Honestly, I've got to make a good impression on the new CEO somehow. I hear her cheerful voice behind me, and I can't help but cringe. Trying to get in the new CEO's good graces, huh? Good luck with that. As the time for Mr. Kendall's retirement party draws near, guests begin taking their seats one by one. The venue is lavishly decorated, with luxurious food laid out, creating a truly festive atmosphere. Since my work here is done, I gathered with my junior, Scott, and colleague, Tom, to finally check out the seating chart Kimberly gave me. We all opened the chart, probably at the same table since we're in the same sales department. I'm at table E, seat 34. Hey, we're right next to each other. I've got table E, seat 33. Listening to them, I stare down at my own seat assignment in stunned silence. The words in front of me were written like this: Restroom. I feel as if my heart has stopped for a moment. In disbelief, I double-check the chart, then triple-check it, but each time, it shows the same word, restroom. What the? What? My quiet exclamation makes both of them glance at me with puzzled looks. Too shocked to process, I stand there, rooted to the spot. Hey, are you okay? You seem a bit off. Seriously, what's going on? Is there something weird written on the seating chart? Growing impatient with my lack of response, the two leaned in to take a look at the seating chart themselves. And then, their expressions changed as they saw it. This has to be a mistake, right? This has to be some kind of joke, right? Please, let it be a joke. This is awful. It's so bad I can't even laugh at it, Tom muttered, unable to hide his bewilderment. Noticing my reaction, Kimberly walked over, covering her mouth as she began to laugh loudly. I look at her and ask for clarification. What? Why is my seat in the restroom? This has got to be some kind of joke, right? Oh, did you see it? For a middle school graduate like you, Keith, the restroom's where you belong. Restroom dining is all the rage these days, isn't it? Completely unable to comprehend her words, I just stare at her. It just suits you better, doesn't it? I mean, really, a non-elite like you in the same space as me? How audacious. Isn't that right, she says, displaying an attitude that's not acceptable even for a boss. Anger begins simmering quietly within me. The noise around me feels distant, as if I'm observing it from afar. Fine. If that's your attitude, I have a response of my own. I look at her with probably the iciest glare I've ever given her. And my voice has never sounded this low before. Noticing my change in demeanor, Kimberly's high-pitched laughter fades, and she stares at me, surprised. What are you going to do? You, a middle school graduate, who doesn't have any power at all. Her loud voice catches the attention of the whole room, and tension immediately fills the air. Just then, the doors open, and Mr. Kendall enters the room. Oh, Mr. Kendall. My apologies, there are still some staffs who haven't taken their seats. Please, give us just a moment. She tries to push us to our seats, laughing nervously. I sigh, finally deciding what to do. This time, I'm going to raise my voice loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. It seems Kimberly assigned me a seat in the restroom. Apparently, since I'm a middle school graduate, I belong there. So, I'll be excusing myself. My apologies, Mr. Kendall, for making a scene during your celebration. Ignoring Kimberly's panicked expression, I bow deeply to Mr. Kendall. She's visibly flustered, yet unable to come up with a solution. All she can do is mutter, without managing to say anything. Noticing our expressions, Mr. Kendall sighs deeply. Then, he switches on the nearby microphone and begins to speak. Well, Kimberly, you've really gone too far with this tasteless little prank of yours. Mr. Kendall. Well, I'm terribly sorry to everyone here, but if Keith is leaving, then I'll be taking my leave as well. After all, there's no point in having an unveiling party without our new CEO, right? A gasp of shock filled the room at Mr. Kendall's words. No way. Keith is the new CEO? Are you serious? Hold up. You're kidding, right? How did that happen? I'm not against it or anything, just wow. The two colleagues nearby are so flabbergasted that I can't help but laugh, despite how angry I was just moments ago. Then, another person nearby, Kimberly, stared at me with her mouth hanging open. For someone who claims to be an elite, her expression was surprisingly clueless. What? A middle school graduate? A middle school graduate as the new CEO? Kimberly's face went pale, and like a broken record, she kept repeating, a middle school graduate. Well, if the new CEO is leaving, then I'm out too. Scott enthusiastically raised his hand and announced he was heading home. Following suit, Tom did the same. Me too. I'd rather hear our new CEO's story in peace anyway. Let's head out. Their words set off a wave of agreement among the staff, who began nodding to each other and calling out their intention to leave. One by one, they start gathering their things, preparing to leave the venue. Well then, everyone, shall we head back? Maybe we can regroup at the office for a quick talk? When I spoke to Mr. Kendall, he responded with a gentle smile. Let's do that, shall we, Mr. Underhill, our new CEO? And so, my first act as the new CEO wasn't exactly the address I'd planned, but it was clear enough. Everyone finished gathering their things and, leaving a stunned Kimberly behind, we all walked out of the venue. Back at the office, I gathered everyone in the conference room. I made sure each person had a drink from the vending machine, so they could relax a bit. Once everyone had settled down, Mr. Kendall and I stepped to the front. Looking around, I could see a mix of apprehension and anticipation in the employees' faces. Mr. Kendall began to speak first. With a calm yet firm voice, he started explaining why he chose me to be the new CEO. Thank you all for gathering today and coming back to the office. I know the sudden announcement of the new CEO must have been surprising. Scott, sitting in the front row, was nodding enthusiastically. Many others in the room were also nodding along. Now, I'd like to share with you why I chose Keith for this role. Everyone leaned in, and the room fell into a respectful silence. In fact, I've been Keith's neighbor for quite some time. I remember him losing his father back when he was in middle school. After his father's passing, I watched as he took on responsibility, working tirelessly. It was by sheer coincidence that he ended up joining our company, as our families had grown apart by then. That was true. In those days, as the eldest of 6, I was helping raise a middle schooler, an elementary schooler, a preschooler, and an infant. By that time, Mr. Kendall's children were already high schoolers, so our families didn't interact much. Of course, when I see him around the neighborhood, I greet him and chat a little about the weather. So, you can imagine my surprise when that same neighborhood guy showed up at my job interview as the CEO. Every morning, he would get up early to help his mother, drop the younger kids off at daycare before going to work, and then pick them up in the evening after work. He'd take on cooking, help with homework, get them ready for bed, and read them stories. As Mr. Kendall spoke, memories of those days came flooding back. Those days were tough, but strangely, I didn't resent them. I remembered my father's words asking me to look out for my mother and siblings, and how endearing my younger brothers and sisters were. Over the years, I watched Keith continue to support his family. He'd even spend his days off playing with the younger kids. He could have spent those days sleeping in, but he'd always listen to their stories, always smiling. Everyone in the room was listening intently to Mr. Kendall's speech. Some employees with children were even a bit teary-eyed. Watching him, I began to think that Keith might be the one to lead this company someday. I believed he'd be someone who could guide and care for the employees like family. When the time came for me to step down, I wanted to entrust the company to him. Mr. Kendall paused before continuing. Of course, there was always a chance that Keith might change as he grew. So, I made sure to watch over him closely, keeping a careful eye on his development. His work has been flawless, and as he matured, he also developed a unique ability to understand people's hearts and move forward with them. A company is like one big family, and I became convinced that the one who truly values this family and can lead us all forward is none other than Keith. Around the room, employees were struggling to hold back their tears. In front of me, Scott was sniffling, his eyes brimming with tears. Tom's eyes were red, and he blinked repeatedly, trying to keep his composure. I bowed deeply, expressing my gratitude to Mr. Kendall. Everyone, from here on out, please support Keith. Just as you've been there for me all these years, I ask you to be there for him. He's more than capable. This is my last request as I step down from the company. Thank you very much. As Mr. Kendall bowed, the employees broke into applause, the sound filling the entire room. The sight moved me, leaving me momentarily at a loss for words. I accepted the mic from Mr. Kendall, took a deep bow, drew a steadying breath, and began to speak. Thank you, everyone. I didn't expect this opportunity from Mr. Kendall. At first, I declined, saying I wasn't capable of being CEO. But Mr. Kendall reassured me that I could do it. I truly struggled with the decision. I questioned myself, wondering if I was the right person. And I discussed it with my family. I recalled the day Mr. Kendall emailed me and summoned me to the CEO's office. The shock of being told that I'd be the next CEO. That was probably the biggest surprise of my life. When I shared it with my family, they were just as stunned, but they encouraged me, saying, "Why not give it a try?" But, to be honest, I've always liked this company. I've also really liked everyone who works here. Although I always thought Kimberly was a bit difficult. My honest remark made Scott burst into laughter, and soon, the laughter spread around the room. To be fair, Kimberly was particularly tough on me, though she treated everyone that way. She wasn't exactly someone people could easily warm up to. Everything that's happened, well, it's her own doing, honestly. I want to make this company an even better place with all of you. I already think it's a wonderful place. But I want to create an environment where honesty is rewarded and hard-working people receive the recognition they deserve. I want us to treat each other like family, supporting each other in our work. Will you lend me your strength? I look forward to your support. Toward the end, I couldn't stop my tears from flowing as I spoke. To hide it, I bowed deeply. There was a big round of applause for me, which didn't stop, and I heard voices cheering, "You got this, new CEO," which only grew louder. Though I felt embarrassed, I lifted my head, my face drenched in tears, and continued to express my gratitude. A gentle hand patted my shoulder, and when I turned, there was Mr. Kendall's warm smile. "See? I told you you'd be just fine. You're ready to lead as CEO now. Everyone will work together with you, so whenever things get tough, remember today. Keep this feeling close to your heart. Do your best, Mr. Underhill." I nodded firmly at his words, renewing my determination to give my all as the new CEO. The next day, as I was in the CEO's office, Kimberly came to see me. She looked pale, clearly nervous about facing me. But as the new CEO, I intended to formally address the disciplinary action regarding Kimberly. The complaints about her were far worse than I'd anticipated. Just yesterday, numerous employees came forward with reports about her behavior, some of which simply couldn't be ignored. That's why I'd called her in. Unexpectedly, however, Kimberly voluntarily offered her resignation. "Mr. Underhill, I am truly sorry for everything. I'd like to take responsibility for my actions and words up to this point. My husband was very upset with me as well. He was at the same hotel on business during yesterday's meeting. When I explained the situation, he was furious, saying he never expected me to act this way. I was slightly surprised and looked at her. Her eyes were swollen, and her face was puffier than usual. I decided to accept her resignation. Then, I tell Kimberly what I need to say. This is probably my last chance. Kimberly, thank you for your hard work. As you move on to a new path, please avoid making the same mistakes. You were the first woman promoted to manager here. There's no doubt you're talented. Please take this experience as a lesson, learn from it, and work to improve." Kimberly bowed deeply and left the office. I exhaled deeply, and from the next room, Tom, my secretary, walked in. Tom, who's actually in sales, agreed to act as my secretary because of his strong management skills. "Man, you really are too kind. She said some pretty harsh things to you over the years." I chuckled at Tom's exasperated expression. "Yeah, I know. But maybe this will help her change for the better." If her husband was angry too, I'm sure she felt the impact. I think that's all I needed to say. Maybe I'm being soft, but... Tom laughed at my words. "Well, call it kindness or whatever, it's just like you. A company needs someone like you leading it." And so, Tom and I embarked on this journey together, giving our all to the company. From early morning to late at night, I worked hard, listening to each employee and planning with a vision for the company's future. According to what Tom and Scott have told me, it seems the company's morale is on the rise. Keith's dedication to everyone shines through. The atmosphere here is really positive. Whatever comes our way, we feel ready to take it on together. Hearing the positive feedback from everyone, I was overjoyed and decided to hold a meeting to introduce a new project I had been developing. This project was designed for all employees to participate, encouraging their personal growth alongside the company's. With conviction, I explained the project's purpose and called on everyone for their support. This project is for us to grow as a team. I need your strength. Let's continue walking this path and growing together. The employees responded with enthusiastic applause, and 6 months later, the project yielded impressive results. Even as the work of being CEO often wore me down, my family was always there to support me. My younger siblings, still living at home, took great care in looking out for me. "Hey, Keith, you doing okay? Need a massage if you're tired? Are you sleeping enough? Those dark circles under your eyes are kinda serious." They gave me a massage and even handed me a warm eye mask. I couldn't help but get emotional, realizing how kind my little brother and sister, who used to be so small, have grown up to be. But when I started crying, they just looked at me weirdly. Why though? Every day, my mother offered words of encouragement, and no matter how late I returned, she always had a warm meal waiting. "Welcome home, Keith. You seem to be working especially hard today. Take a break, and remember to take care of yourself. Don't overdo it, okay?" Her comforting words and delicious cooking helped me relax, reminding me of just how precious my family's support was to me. All the hard work I poured into my role as CEO bore significant fruit a few years later. The company experienced remarkable growth, achieving record-breaking sales. Employees continued to rise to the challenge, bringing one successful project after another to life. All right. Thanks to everyone's efforts, our numbers are up. Let's have a celebration. I organized a gathering to show my appreciation and gave a speech to the entire team. Thanks to all of you, our company has come this far. Truly, thank you. I look forward to our continued success together. Applause filled the room as I expressed my heartfelt gratitude. There was nothing artificial in my words. They were my sincere feelings. I genuinely consider each of you not as mere employees, but as members of this family. Let's keep moving forward together as one family, making this company an even better place. My declaration brought smiles to everyone's faces. There are tough times, of course, moments when Tom scolds me or I need to vent my frustrations. Sometimes, I feel like crying or want to escape it all. But knowing that overcoming these challenges leads to everyone's smiles keeps me from running away. As CEO, I'll continue protecting everyone and growing alongside them. Each and every one of them matters deeply to me,